Hey guys, welcome back to another video. Today we're talking about your choice of passives if you're planning to max your stats all the way up to 9,999. One of the things I love about this game is that every Digimon can be viable. The downside is that once you hit the stat cap, a lot of passives that used to feel great just stop doing anything. That can make some builds feel kind of pointless. In this video, we're going to break down which passives are actually worth running once you're capped, explain what they do, and talk about when you'd want to use them. So let's jump right in. On screen now, you'll see the full list of passives you can pick from. If we cut it down to the ones that still matter at max stats, it looks more like this: Follow-Up, First Aid, First Inline, Great Embrace, Extra Strikes Tech, Vitality Theft, Counter, Haymaker, Magic Theft, Combo Magic, Planning Ahead, Booing, Weak Point Blitz, and Prankster. Let's go through each one and figure out where they shine. First up, we've got First in Line and Follow-Up. These two are sort of opposites. First in Line lets your Digimon always act first. That's great for Digimon who need to get a buff or debuff out before anyone else moves. I call these your primers. They set things up so your main damage dealer, or hitter, can do maximum damage. Imagine if your hitter moves first and hits for 500 damage. If your primer had gone first and landed a debuff, that same attack might have done 1000 instead. Follow-Up is the reverse. It makes your Digimon always act last. It's more useful for Digimon that need to take a hit before they can do their thing. I don't know if there's a move exactly like that in this game, but think about Bide from Pokemon. That kind of strategy could benefit from Follow-Up. I'd say it's mostly a tank passive and kind of niche overall. Next up is First Aid. This is a huge one for healers because it removes the injury debuff whenever you cast a healing skill. Injury reduces the amount of healing a Digimon receives. I don't have the exact numbers, but I'd guess somewhere around 20 to 50%. Having First Aid means your heals always land for full value, which is crucial late game when bosses are throwing out 7,000 plus damage hits. If you're running a healer, this is the passive you really want. Speaking of support abilities, let's talk about Great Embrace. This one boosts your Digimon's max HP up to around 16,000. If endgame fights are as brutal as I think they'll be, this might end up being mandatory in certain builds or for certain content. I won't spoil anything, but I know some mega-level Digimon have devastating skills that only activate if your health is at 100%. Being able to boost your max HP so that your health never drops below 9,999 means you can keep those skills online longer. I'd say it's not quite as universally important as First Aid, but it's still a very strong option. It's worth having a healer build with First Aid and another support build with Great Embrace so you can swap as needed. Extra Strikes Tech is one of the big damage passives. It gives you an extra attack after your extra attacks, which can trigger a bunch of bond effects like healing your team or restoring SP. At max attack, those extra hits still hurt, so this is a solid damage boost. The only catch is that extra attacks aren't guaranteed, so you might not always see the benefit every fight. Keep that in mind before you commit. Vitality Theft is basically a self-heal tied to your physical damage. At the end game, when you're hitting for huge numbers, that 10% heal becomes massive. It adds a lot of survivability to your hitter or tank. Think of Darius from League of Legends landing his Q on a bunch of enemies and suddenly going from 20% HP to 90%. That's the kind of sustain we're talking about here. I'd suggest putting this on your bulkier Digimon to help take some pressure off your healer. Counter is a weird one. I've tested it a bunch and it only starts to shine when your HP drops below half. The lower your health goes, the better the activation chance. Once you're under 30%, you'll see it triggering a lot more often. When it procs, it's great because you nullify all damage from that attack and hit back with damage that scales off your own attack stat. I think this is perfect for a taunt tank-style Digimon who's expected to take hits anyway. I use it on my Zubamon so he can fill that role. Outside of that setup, it's pretty niche. Haymaker is arguably the best straight damage passive. It boosts your critical damage by 20%. Besides Weak Point Blitz, it's the only passive that directly amps up your damage numbers. If your Digimon is built to crit, this is almost always the pick. Some Digimon can stack up to 90% crit chance before attacking, so Haymaker scales insanely well into the late game, especially on multi-hit moves since each hit can crit separately. Magic Theft restores SP based on the damage you deal. That sounds great, but it loses some value when you've got plenty of SP items on hand. It's still worth considering for Digimon that use skills which consume all their SP at once. For them, the ability to regain a chunk of that SP right away can be really helpful. Combo Magic is kind of like Counter but for your hitters. It lets you cast your skill twice. Unfortunately, just like Counter, it only becomes really reliable when your health dips below 30%. That makes it tricky to use consistently. You can throw it on a tank or a healer, but honestly, I don't think it's worth it over something like Counter, First Aid, or Great Embrace. Definitely deserves more testing, though. Planning Ahead is one of my personal favorites. This passive heavily debuffs enemy defenses for 3 turns. That means your entire team hits harder right away, which makes it perfect for boss fights or any situation where you need burst damage. Usually you'll want your primer to run this so they can weaken the boss before your hitters unload. It's basically a free defense break that doesn't eat up your actual debuff turn. For me, it's a must-have on at least one primer. Booing boosts the duration of debuffs by 2 extra turns. Not much else to say there. If your team relies on keeping a boss weakened for a long fight, this can be very handy since you won't need to refresh debuffs as often. Good on a primer if you've got the right setup. Weak Point Blitz is a fun one but very situational. It rewards you for hitting an enemy with consecutive super effective moves by giving extra bonus damage on top of the usual type advantage. It can hit really hard, maybe even harder than Haymaker in the right situation. But it requires planning and knowing what you're up against. If you're going into a boss fight and know exactly what they're weak to, it can be amazing. Otherwise, I'd still usually go with Haymaker for more consistent value. Last but not least is Prankster, the status effect king. It raises the chance for your abilities to apply their status effects by about 15 to 25%. That's great for moves that don't have a guaranteed chance to apply things like poison or stun. A lot of mega-level Digimon already have a 100% chance to apply their status moves though, so Prankster's value drops in those cases. It's still good, but definitely on the lower end compared to the heavy hitters like Haymaker or First Aid. To help make this easier, here's the tier list I've put together, from S down to D. In S tier, we've got Haymaker, Planning Ahead, and First Aid. Haymaker for the crit damage, Planning Ahead for the huge team-wide damage boost, and First Aid for keeping your heals at full power. In A tier, we have Great Embrace, Vitality Theft, and Booing. All strong skills that are just a little more situational, but still bring a ton of value. In B tier, we've got Magic Theft and Extra Strikes Tech. Useful, but not as reliable as the higher tiers. C tier goes to Prankster, Follow Up, and First in Line. Very situational and usually outclassed by other options. And in D tier, we've got Weak Point Blitz, Counter, and Combo Magic. These can be really strong in the right circumstances, but those situations just don't come up often enough. That wraps up the breakdown. I hope this helps you figure out which passives to prioritize if you're aiming for max stats. Today's actually my birthday, so I've been celebrating while working on this video, and it's been a bit delayed because of other projects. If you enjoyed it and want to help me out with the algorithm, drop a comment. I'm also looking for new music to listen to, so leave me your favorite song recommendations. If you liked the video, please give it a like, and if you want to see more guides like this, consider subscribing. Thanks for watching, and have an awesome day. I'll save you a slice of cake. Peace.